Let's preview the content for the second week. This week builds on last week's foundational material. So now that we have an understanding of how rhetoric can help in crafting oral messages, we can focus on inventing, arranging, and phrasing key points. Now to do so, we start off with the discussion of the key point speech. This assignment allows us to practice all the fundamentals of public speaking, so it's important that we understand what's going on in that assignment. Then we turn to a basic model for crafting memorable points. But really we spend most of our time this week talking about the key points in your key point speech. How to come up with those key points, how to arrange them logically, and how to phrase them well. So by the end of this week, you should have a set of tools for improving your speech writing and your speech delivery. In this video, we'll discuss the major assignment that will shape the rest of our time in this class, the key point speech. So what's the key point speech? Well, it's a basic speech where you determine the key points you want the audience to remember, you discuss each point with concrete and interesting examples, and then you deliver the speech clearly and with confidence. This assignment allows us to practice a reliable model for the types of talks you do every day. It's sort of the Swiss Army knife of speeches. It's always useful and adaptable. Now, why is this? Well, because the key point speech is designed to work with how audiences want to hear and process information in chunks. Your speech for this class will be between 3 to 7 minutes long, but the basic principles that we're going to talk about easily scale to hour-long presentations. If you've got to give an impromptu project briefing or you've got to talk about a new research project, run that as a key point speech. As a teacher, my standard 2-hour lecture classes, they're really just about 7 or 8 interrelated key point speeches. Now, your audience might be from the other side of the globe, so we want our speech topics to stay general. My chief concern is that you speak on something that you can cover in 3 to 7 minutes and that allows you to distinguish between key ideas, the main points, and the support. I would say assume that your audience has little to no background in your topic, so I think general topics tend to work pretty well. So you might summarize the main aspects of your current job or a work project you're currently working on. You could try to persuade us on a general topic, like convincing the listener to donate blood or something. But if you do go with persuasive, avoid more controversial topics. Our goal here is design and delivery, and controversial content kind of pulls us away a little bit too much from these core goals. So, it's kind of hard to focus on the nuances of a speech if it's like, the moon landing was fake, no humans ever actually gone to Belgium, the government's fluoridating your cheese. So don't do that, right? If you want to persuade, pick maybe a more non-controversial topic. You might simply inform us about something. So, for example, I love living here in Seattle. I might spend 5 to 6 minutes talking about Seattle's major neighborhoods or its history. The key point speech is a reliable model for developing talks, but it's also good for us in this class because it allows us to practice and refine each rhetorical canon. So first off, we have invention, right? So in this speech, we have to decide what the audience needs to hear in order to understand our topic. We have arrangement concerns. We have to put the points in the most effective order. Stylistically, what are we thinking about? Well, we got to phrase things concisely. Memory, we got to practice memory here. Why? Because we've got to practice a speech so we can deliver it smoothly. And then, of course, there's always delivery concerns. And here our concern is speaking clearly and confidently. So this assignment really kind of is the course. And you can see that in the schedule. So in Module 2, we work on invention and arrangement for the key point speech. In Module 3, we work on arrangement and style. In Module 4, we work on memory and delivery. And then in the last module, you submit the speech. And there's a payoff to this. In mastering the key point speech, you will have a reliable model to deliver clear and concise speeches at anywhere at any time. But the key point speech also allows us in this class to practice all the fundamentals of good public speaking. In skills training, rubrics are important. Now, a rubric is just a set of criteria for judging a performance. It gives us insight into what distinguishes a great speaker from a good speaker from a below average speaker. And as a teacher, I would say that rubrics are really at the core of what I do. So in this video, I want to talk about the 3 benefits of rubrics and then walk through the rubric we're going to be using for the key point speech. So to begin with, what are some of the benefits of rubrics? Well, first, rubrics reflect course aims. So in designing this course and designing any course, I start with skills. What should students be able to do by the end of the course? Now, you can see all the goals for this course on the website. For example, one is students should be able to write clear and concise key points. So that's a course goal that shows up in the rubric itself. Second, rubrics guide practice. So rubrics, and of course course instruction, should help you know what to do, but they should also help you know what it looks like when that thing is done well and when it's done poorly. So for example, if my goal is for students to be able to write clear and concise key points, then I design lessons that show here's what that looks like when it's done well, here's what that looks like when it's not done so well. And then you get to apply these criteria to your own performance. And then finally, rubrics can sharpen criticism. So the criteria for the key point speech rubric, really, they apply to most speeches. And once you have a general sense for these evaluative criteria, you can make better judgments about your own speeches and the speeches of others. So that's kind of the benefits of rubrics. Now let's walk through the rubric we'll be using for the key point speech. And again, every item on here reflects good speaking habits, but it also reflects what we're going to be doing in class. And this rubric is built on the rhetorical canons, so we're going to evaluate the speech in terms of invention, arrangement, style, memory, and delivery. So first up, invention. With invention, we're concerned with the content of the speech. So we start off with questions like, did the speaker include and explain appropriate main points that clarified the speech topic? So in essence, were there some points in there that that shouldn't have been in there? Were there some points that needed to be in there that weren't? Then we can talk about support. How was it? Could you see how the support related to the main points? Was there a passage that was maybe a little confusing? Was there something that needed more description? Then we can get to arrangement. Did the speaker arrange the speech elements appropriately? So did the main points really go together well? Did the speaker orally highlight speech structure? How were the previews, reviews, and transitions? Basically, how easy was it for you as a listener to follow along with the speech? Did everything make sense, or by the time you got to the end, you're like, oh, surprise, you're done. I didn't see that coming. Right? That's not what we want to happen. So then after arrangement, we can talk about style. Did the speaker phrase the main points clearly and concisely, or were the phrases maybe too long, were they confusing? Did the speaker discuss the support well? So did the speaker get into the details of the example quickly, or were there some examples that were discussed in an unclear way? And then finally, we can talk about delivery. Did the speaker appear confident and animated? That's tough to perform, but it's pretty important. How was the breathing and projection? These are on video, but you can still hear someone retaining too much air or not breathing properly. We can talk about pitch and rate. Was the speaker providing important prosodic cues to help you understand the content easily, or was the speech kind of a little bit more monotone? How was the note use? And this, for us, is kind of where we get into the memory part of this assignment. So did the speaker seem to know the speech deeply? And no matter what type of notes they were using, were those notes used well, or did they kind of get in the way of the delivery? How was the movement and gesturing? Were there some distracting movements, or were there some things that you just thought were brilliant, like, oh, when you gestured on the 4th point, it brought tears to my eyes, beautiful, right? And then finally, we can talk about, did the speaker deliver a speech that was of an appropriate length? And having time limits is important in a speech class because it demands that you make choices. What are you going to include and what are you going to exclude? How often did you practice it to get it smooth and within time? So, in sum, rubrics are important to teaching and learning. They can help us investigate a skill like speech much more closely. This rubric is our map to this course, and it's certainly a general guide to better speaking.